Anyone who has had any experience working with Excel has one way or another also encountered some sort of lookup function. Lookup functions are like Swiss Army knives for those who belong to the 9 to 5 Excel grind. The VLOOKUP function in Excel is one of the lookup functions that searches for a specific value in a row or column in Microsoft Excel and returns another value that's in the same row across a number of specified columns. Sounds like a mouthful. Okay, buckle up as I talk to you through how the VLOOKUP function works, as well as some instructions on how you could make the most of them using our templates. VLOOKUP is just short for vertical lookup, and it's used to search for a row position of particular value in a specific column belonging to a table. When it finds that value, it returns the corresponding value of the chosen column in the same row. Thus, you can liken the work of this function to a phone book if you've ever opened one, where you search for the number of a specific person by searching for their name first in the column of names. And when you find the desired name, you see the number that corresponds to it in the second column, the number column. In this example, we have a table that contains the employee ID number and the employee's name. We want to use the VLOOK function to find out the employee's name by searching for their ID number. This is the general structure of the VLOOK function. The lookup value is the value that you want to search for. In this case, it's the ID number that we will input in this cell here. The table array is the table or range that contains the data that we're looking for. In this case, it's the table with ID number and employee name. We will only reference, though, the data in the table and not the headers because they won't be useful for us when we're looking for the ID numbers. Next up, we got the column index number, and this is basically the order of the column in the table that will be returned. So in this table, we want to return the employee name, so we count 1, 2. The last part of the VLOOKUP is the range lookup. This accepts 1 or 0, or true or false. Putting in 1 or true tells the function we're looking for an approximate match, and putting 0 or false tells the function we're looking for an exact match. For this, we're looking for an exact match, so we're going to put 0. Now we're all set. We can see it. Returns the name James, which corresponds to the ID number in the table. This function makes working with large tables of data super easy, but we know all too well nobody's impervious to errors. We're going to talk about some common errors that you might encounter with this function and how to avoid them. The most common error with this function is the #NA error. That #NA error comes up whenever the function cannot return a value because the lookup value is missing. To resolve this, make sure that you're looking up for the proper values and take note that the lookup value is not case sensitive, but it is sensitive for everything else, so extra spaces or non-printable characters. This also could be the case for your table, so make sure that your values are cleaned up, especially for numbers that were manually inputted or copy-paste values. If you want some tips and tricks to clean up messy data, we go over that in one of our tips and tricks videos, which we will link here or in the video description. Another common error you could get with a VLOOKUP is the #ref error. This error pops up when in set parameters that involve invalid cells. In this example, we get the reference error because the column we're trying to index is invalid. The table we reference is 2 columns wide, while the value we put in is 3. To fix this, just make sure that you index columns that are within the range. Now that we know how the VLOOKUP works, as well as some common errors, let's go into how we can make the most out of this function to help us in our day-to-day. We talked about the hash NA error and how it occurs when a value is missing. If you want to dedicate a cell as a search bar cell, it'll be a bit annoying if you always have to see the hash NA error. So what we could do is place the VLOOKUP inside an if error function like this. Basically, we want to tell Excel that if this shows up as an error because there's nothing in the search cell, return blank. The VLOOKUP really starts to spread its wings when you get creative in nesting it. Let's look at one of our templates. In our work order management template dashboard, we can see how we can use the VLOOKUP to automatically populate columns in a table. We can see that our VLOOKUP is nested inside an if statement. So if the service needed column is blank, it's supposed to stay blank. If not, the if function resorts to the VLOOKUP that looks for values in the same column and lookup values on the coordination database sheet. As a measure, the if statement is nested inside an if error function so that everything stays clean. If you want to see some more great examples of templates that use the VLOOKUP function, I'll put the links to them in the description. The VLOOKUP is such a great and versatile function to use for the 9-to-5 grind and even after. You know what else is great? Skipping the hassle of making your own spreadsheets by checking out simplesheets.co for over 100 pre-built and smart templates. If you found this video useful, please smash that like and subscribe button. It really helps the channel out. And I'll see you guys on the next one.